welcome. Hatap. Welcome to the African Cultural Research and Study Group of Long Beach. Our weekly Tuesday evening study group session. We are honored this evening to have two very special guests with us from the New York area and from Philadelphia via Archebulon, Africa, Ethiopia, our names for our homeland. Tonight we're going to have a conversation that's entitled The African Curriculum. And I'm going to bring up our director of the African Cultural Research and Study Group, Olufemi, just to introduce him to the group for all of the newcomers here. Let him say a few words.
Thanks, Saati. Welcome again. We have 3 classes a week here, Tuesday, Thursday, and of course the drum class at MacArthur Park. So anyone interested in those things, talk to us and we'll include you. I want to introduce Brother Sabir Bey. He wants me to keep going, and I can keep going, and I don't think he came here tonight for that. So Brother Sabir Bey is the person I'm introducing from one of the films that we've been using here a lot, Hidden Colors.
That was real quick. I don't need this mic, do I? Need this mic? Speaking to? Need the mic? How's everybody doing? Great. This is actually, y'all, I want to thank all of y'all for coming out, and I'm glad to see some young brothers in here, too. What's going on, y'all? So some more young ones coming in. I want to thank Brother Olufemi and Sister Saati. Please, y'all give a round of applause, because for putting on this type of event, because actually, and just for being here, for the community, just for being here. I got to say that, okay? We got some more people coming in. Got some young brothers coming in. I always start, before I speak, I would like to say everybody always have a pen and a piece of paper. Don't just sit here. We don't just come here and make it like it's a feel-good session. We want everybody to go home and do some homework. Go home, do homework on whatever we saying. Don't take nothing what Brother Kaba and I say at face value. Do your homework and free yourself, okay? I want to thank, I knew this brother for I always say over 15 years, because I know how my son is now. I knew Brother Kaba over 15 years. We had many times that we would be on the phone, like, late at night, seriously, till like probably 3 in the morning. Wow, it's getting hot in here. It's getting kind of crowded now. Ooh, the people still coming in. Peace, Brother Myra. So we want to start, because first of all, I got to please everybody, I can't forget, Karen, give that sister a round of applause, everybody, because when I came out here in California, I'm an East Coast guy. I'm from Philadelphia. I mean, I lived in New York also, but I'm from Philadelphia from the start. I came out in California, and I was like, where are all the conscious people out here? I was asking that question. I was like, am I really in Hollywood? This is Hollywood. And I'm searching. For 3 years I've been out here. And it was this sister, Karen, that used to study under and come to my classes that I had at Carras Unity Center. And we would do it weekly. And from that point on, we built a relationship and a partnership and said, we got to get these people out to California, bring some life back out here in Cali, because really it wasn't moving the way I seen it, seriously. Because every week in New York, we are doing something in New York to unite constantly. We bringing light to our people. So I was like, well, what are we going to do? And we tried to scramble and scrape and get up money to bring people out. We had Dr. Jeffries out. How many people are familiar with Dr. Leonard Jeffries? Wow, everybody in this room should know who Dr. Leonard Jeffries is, for real. I had him out here at Carras Unity Center. And then I bought Brother Kaba first, and then it was Brother Jose Pimente Bey, and then it was Dr. Jeffries. We brought all these people out to California to give y'all this information, to give y'all food. Hey, my family. That's my family right there, y'all. Say hello to my family. Pharaoh. What's up, man? I don't like really, you may see me joke sometimes, y'all, but it's not always serious. We gotta have fun sometimes and loosen up, because it's not always that serious, and I don't like to walk into a boring place, You know, I like to have fun sometimes. I like to make it edutaining. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Philadelphia. I was in the streets, very heavy. How I got into this knowledge is by, I'm going to cut it short, but I talked about it yesterday. I cut it real short today. I grew up in Philadelphia. I was in the streets heavily, with drugs, selling drugs. And there was a brother, I went through the Nation of Islam. From the Nation of Islam, I went to Sunni Islam. None of that stuff got me out the street. What took me off the street was a brother coming to me with a fez on his head and challenging the police. And that was my thing. So what happened, I asked his brother what was that on his head. I said, what kind of hat was that? He said, it's not a hat. He caught my interest. He said, it's a national headdress. Anybody know what that hat that the Moors wear? I mean, some people came in kind of late. How many people are familiar with the Moors? You all should be, because everybody in this room is one. All right? He used to walk with this fez on his head. I used to ask him, what was he doing? What is it? What kind of religion are you? He said, it's not a religion, it's a nationality. Now, mind you, this is my journey from leaving the streets. I've been shot many times playing in that street. But it wasn't him. And I'm saying this to brothers that's sitting there because everybody has a way out of something. And my way was this knowledge. So the brother introduced me and told me to come to his house. When I came to his house, he had a book full of, like, a shelf like that. Every book that was in there. One of the books that he had on his shelf was this book right here. This is a law dictionary, and I always tell people to pick them up. Hold it like it's a Bible. He took me to this. And one of the other books he took me to was a regular Webster's dictionary and told me to read. And the first word he told me to look up was Indian. Now, in my mind, because of Hollywood, I'm thinking Indian was light skin, feathers. That's what I thought. But when he dissected the word, and he taught me etymology, he dissected the word Indian and meant indigo, which means dark people. And I was like, wow, they talking about me. Sat on this brother for 3 or 4 years before I met my teacher, Brother Tariq Bey. And when I was ready to go, he released me to Jersey. We had classes in Jersey from 7 till 3 in the morning every week. It was called the Moors Order of the Round Table. That was our civics classes in Jersey. And from that, the rest is history. I started going to radio. I did radio for 10 years. Took all the information I encountered and learned and brought it out to everybody on the radio. That was my journey. But with this, I want to start a little bit. We ready? And we're going to, anytime, this is like, we had a lot of stuff set up, but we're going to do basically, if y'all want to have questions for either one of us, you can. But I want to say something about this here. And this is why I started this about nationality. Right? This case right here. Who said, Somebody said, Oh, before I forget, we do classes here too, what, every Wednesday? Yes. Wednesdays. Law classes every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We do law classes. I'm here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock teaching language and law. So we're going to go through those things. We're going to have law dictionaries. And I'll repeat it again later on. This case right here, Trayvon Martin, I got a couple interviews. They asked me to speak on this particular case. How many people was touched by that case? Why? Yeah, you saying yeah. Why? Can I ask y'all why? Let me tell you something. It's never going to stop until we actually deal with our status and who we are. This is why I tell people the importance of understanding the law. When you're dealing in court cases, there's 3 things they deal with. One is status, jurisdiction, and adjudication. I'm going to repeat that again. Status, jurisdiction, adjudication. You can't have jurisdiction if you don't have the status of an individual. And this is why I'm looking at this particular case with this brother Trayvon Martin. His status was never established in these courtrooms. As I'm watching things, I was watching a movie last night called White House Down. Through this whole movie, they was building on Constitution. They was dealing on jurisdiction. They went through all of this inside this movie. So for people to say that it doesn't apply to us, it does. Because what happens, we're not being taught, they're not teaching our children the Constitution. Carter G. Woodson, in his book, I just want to read something to y'all, and then we can get into this real quick. How many people are familiar with this brother? Brothers, are you familiar with this? You're not? Okay. I want y'all to get this book. She has that book on the shelf over here. I want every last one of y'all to read this book. And there's a page in here I'm going to read real quick. Now listen to this. In 1920, what was taking place in 1920. It says, these youths are not permitted to learn that Jefferson believed that the government should derive its power from the consent of the governed. Right? Did y'all hear what I said? I'm going to repeat this again. It says, these youths are not permitted to learn that Jefferson believed that the government should derive its power from the consent of the governed. Okay. All right? I'm going to go a little further. Not long ago, a measure was introduced in a certain state to have the Constitution of the United States printed in schools for history. But when the bill was getting ready to get passed, it was killed by someone who made it a point. It would never teach the Negro how to study or read the Constitution. How many of us know the Constitution here? Oh, we know you probably know the Constitution. Study it, hold it like it's a Bible. I had a copy of the Constitution somewhere in here. The reason why I'm saying these things is don't get caught up in the emotionalism of what took place with Trayvon Martin, because there's going to be many more Trayvon Martins. There was more Trayvon Martins before that. If we don't deal with the issues at hand of who our people truly are, jurisdiction is a very large and broad thing. Because you being on this land does not mean that they have jurisdiction over you unless you are property. How many people are familiar with this Dred Scott decision, which we'll be discussing at my classes? Everybody should know about that. What you know about it, brother?
I learned in history. Dred Scott, it was a court case against the state, I believe, the state had something that's
Yes. The case was that the descendants of Africans, rather emancipated or not, remain without. Oh, you see what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about. The Constitution. See how this is a beat up one? You can tell you use it too. Everybody should have this, man. And everybody should have this. But the Constitution stated, and it also talks about in the Dred Scott case, that the slaves were always property. Period. They just use a different word now called persons. And this is why I say study the law dictionary. Because persons are corporations and they are businesses. So they only changed it. If they was to tell you truly that you were still a slave, what would happen? If they told you was a slave right now, what would happen? Say that again? See how what would happen? So they understand they know you better than you know yourself. So what they're going to do, they're going to send the Negroes in to teach you civil rights, but not human rights. I was breezing through a law dictionary the other day, and I looked up animal rights, human rights. And then when it got to civil rights, it was talking about discrimination. I said, whoa, wait a minute. And then you think about all these brothers and sisters who are here on these platforms are talking about civil rights. When you kill an individual, that's not a civil rights act. It's terrorism. When you shoot somebody, that's a human rights violation, not a civil rights violation. Civil rights is just from discrimination. That's all it is. So we got to be very careful. Brother Sabir Bey would call people charlatans and all these other sorcerers and everything else who are keeping our people, the way they are. But we got to wake up. We got to arm ourselves with this information. This is why I wanted to join forces with this brother and Dr. Jeffries to show the unity in us, because we are all one. But you have to deal with your nationality, people. I can't stress this anymore. You have to deal with it, because there's Negro, black, colored, Muslim, whatever you want to call it. It is not a nationality. It is not a nationality. Let's be realistic. This is why they can shoot and kill these young brothers on these streets today when they don't have to answer to nobody, because they can do what they want to do with their property. Let's get away from the emotionalism of it. In Philadelphia, they had a Puerto Rican Day parade, and I keep saying this. I don't know if it was big on the news last year. Someone threw something at a police officer. The police officer turns around and started choking the Puerto Rican girl. What they told him after that, to get him out the neighborhood, or we're going to burn his house down, and you got to fire him. This is nationality. Even though Puerto Rican is not a nationality, it means port to the riches. But that's a nationality. They have a flag. But they enforce these things. If we don't have a nationality, we can't enforce anything. They will give you a privilege and act like they're doing something, because they have to protect the property. Do y'all get what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? This is why these things are happening. It's a whole lot of Trayvon, but you have people that look like you and I. They don't want that to happen. They getting their pockets lined. This is why I was talking about the movie White House Down. They was teaching the little girl was in there going into the Constitution. I was shocked, 11 years old. How many of us teach our children the Constitution? Why? Why not?
Depicts us in a very negative way.
How? How does it?
Depicts us as being our lives as not being us as not being human, fully human.
Is it you or them?
Them.
No, it's not. Let me show you something. There's a term, and that's why I tell people, I have the CD, the Black's Law Dictionary. It'll tell you the definition, and we're talking about law now, not everyday lingo. In law, they have a word called free white person. It has nothing to do with Caucasian race, it says. It have nothing to do with European race. It have nothing to do with white in color, neither. It's a status. Remember I said early on? Status, jurisdiction, judication. You can't just jump from status to jurisdiction. This is why even today you can be here, but they got to see if they have the jurisdiction over you. Once they get the status issue, they already have the jurisdiction, and then they can adjudicate. And that's what they're doing. Now, yesterday, if you wasn't there yesterday, they was talking about they classified us, I think it was you, Mario. They classified us as what in the Constitution?
Oh, 3/5 of the person.
Okay, so what was the other two? What's your two if you talking about, they talking about you in there? What's your other two that's missing to make you a whole?
European blood, I imagine.
There's no such thing as European blood. No. Your creed and your nationality. Creed, nationality. The Emancipation Proclamation is a public announcement, is not a law. It means to be set free and proclaim who you are. That's what you're supposed to have done. Emancipated yourself. Emancipate means set free. Proclamate means to proclaim. And this is why Noble Drew Ali came in 1913 and was telling our people to link ourselves back to the families of nations. Go back to the families of nations so we can get help abroad when something happened. Yes, I'm African, but I also know my nationality. And I also know that I'm standing in Northwest Africa, and that's a known fact. It's not my belief system. Like I said, look it up. This is Northwest Africa we're standing in today. I'm from Philadelphia, where a lot of stuff took place at. Philadelphia is where we fell, and Philadelphia is where we're going to rise back up at. This is why these things are happening. There's a library in the Philadelphia, on a parkway in Philadelphia, there's a map section in Philadelphia that we used to take tours and actually have people look through these maps. Some of them you couldn't touch. And it would tell you about this part of the land, how this was Northwest Africa. And most of it was written in the Kufic Arabic writing. This is what we was doing in the Moors Roundtable. We would teach people these things. This is the missing link. This is the missing piece that they don't want y'all to know about. Because if you woke up to this information, what would happen? We would take it overnight. There won't be no more killings of our people. Because we would have a nation and other people abroad helping our people. I don't have Noble Drew Ali's book, but he made a comment. Actually, in one of his books, he says, all the stuff that is happening to us because of what we are doing, because what we have done, what we strayed after the gods of Europe. So all the stuff that is happening to us is not because of them, it's because of us. Because of us. We're not teaching our children anything like the Jews do. Pass it down. Jews teach this. And I'm gonna leave with this, but I'm gonna bring Dr. Kaba and y'all gonna ask any questions, but we're gonna go back and forth. I was in when I first moved out here, I was getting my cell phone fixed, right? Somewhere downtown, I don't know, wherever the Jews part is at, I don't know where that's at, but I'm sitting in this guy's house, and I'm telling my life experiences with these people. This is not nothing I made up, I seen on TV. I'm sitting with this Jewish guy, and I say Jewish. He's fixing my phone. And as he's fixing my phone, he see hair in my phone. And he asked me a question, what kind of clippers do you use? At the same time, he's looking at this piece on my neck at the same time. So he's asking me, what kind of clippers do I use? And I said, some silver clippers. Let me show you how unconscious we really are. They silver. I said, the whales or something. And he said, no, they're German. He taught me something. I didn't know the wall clippers was German. So he told me, a real Jew don't use anything that is German. They don't drive German cars. They don't use German silverware. They don't use any of this. I asked him, why do black people do that? He said, because they don't know who they are. This is what he said. They don't know who they are. He asked me about my piece, and I said, I'm a Moorish Jew. That really shook him because he didn't understand me. He knew about the Moors, though, because his eyes got big. But I said I was a Moorish Jew. I'm the original Jew. And that was the conversation from there. And as I travel, I see a lot of this happening. I just wanted to put that out there. But people have to realize who you are. This is because it's nothing but a creed, the original Jews. It's a creed. I could be a Muslim tomorrow. I could be a Christian tomorrow. I could be a Buddhist tomorrow. I'm everything. See what I'm saying? I can be what I want to be. That's a creed. Remember I said the creed and nationality. Because I was sitting with him. You feel what I'm saying? And the original Jews are us. If you read the 100 Major Facts about the Negro, which this book right here is a very good book, and it speaks about the Moorish Jews in here, in this book. But see, the thing is that don't get so strung on religion. What happened, what we run from, they accept, and that's why they control. I just said that to him to get to him to understand what I'm saying. I do stuff purposely to people. If I'm sitting with them, I'm going to let you know, but I won't never say black, and I won't never give you the credit by saying you're white, because I understand there's status issues. It has nothing to do with complexion. It's about your right to you're free. Like code words. That's all they are, code words. Code words, that's all. And this...
He's just making a distinction between a religious belief and who you are, who you really are. So you can claim whatever you want. You can say that you're Jewish. It's 500 years back, a Hebrew from the place now known as Zimbabwe. But I don't consider myself a Jew. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I come from the Hebrew tribe or nation. But if I said to someone who's Jewish, I'm Jewish or I'm Christian, I'm only making claim to a creed. It's not who I am, it's just a claim on a belief system.
That's all it is.
That's the distinction.
What happened? Study history. Noble Drew Ali said the reason why we're suffering is because we strayed after the gods of Europe. We strayed after the European Christianity. And this is why we're suffering. How many people are familiar with the Christian and black codes? Let people look this stuff up. There were laws that was passed after they freed the blacks. And it was to restrict them in certain areas. And what to do. You couldn't have a gang of blacks in one corner. Blacks couldn't have weapons unless we gave them the weapons. Blacks couldn't intermingle with European people. It was against the law. They would find you. These are the things that is happening. The black codes, the Dred Scott case, all these things that we're going to be building with in these classes on every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. But I want to bring Brother Kaba up real quick. Dr. Kaba. Everybody give him a round of applause. Let me say this real quick, y'all. Any question you have between, cause we're going to go back and forth. So any questions you may have, either what I would say or Dr. Kaba would say, we're here to answer them. Because this is not, like Sister Saati, this is a study group. This is a study group so people can ask questions. We need to have more of this instead of more of these lectures series and have people looking these things up. Brother Kaba?
Hotep family. I just want to thank you all for inviting me here. I am your brother from New York, Bronx in particular. Yeah. And I would like to bring greetings from your brothers and sisters from New York. Because wherever Africans are, Africa is, and wherever Africa is, I'm home. And so I thank you for inviting me to be with you and to share this time with you and the family. I'd like to thank my brother Sabir Bey for the ongoing lecture series that has been going on. Civil Alert, I remember the radio show. Okay, when Sabir speaks of our relationship going back, and I remember when brother Noah invited me to the Asar Set community in Philadelphia up on Germantown Avenue. These are my experiences growing and the things that I did. And I'm just so happy to be here to do this. I would like to thank my sister Karen because she is the feminine principle that makes all things happen. Yes, I appreciate brothers. I am a brother myself, but it's the sisters that keep the brother on course. And so, my sister Karen, I really do appreciate the work that you do because I know what you're doing, okay? And I know in your desire to remain there, you are the reason in many ways why I'm here. And so I thank you for that, and I know that, and I recognize you for that, okay? And it's important that we understand our energy and our power. You know, there's so much that we could talk about. But this evening, I've come specifically to talk to you about curriculum. Professor John Henry Clark. I give him credit for much of who I have evolved into as it relates to my consciousness. I was brought up in a family, mother and father, who the greatest human beings I ever knew. And I so appreciate all the things that they did for me. But outside of the family, it was Professor John Henry Clark, from a very young age, that gave me, he told me years later that the one thing that he wanted to give me more than anything else, not just me, but all the others, James Small is another brother that was under his wing. He's a little older than I, but he's still my older brother. He wanted to give us a sense of self-concept. When you have a concept of yourself, you can do anything you choose to do. You see? And that's what becomes so very important for us as a people, to understand that we need to have a sense of self-concept. I mean, not judge, let's judge I. I don't point fingers. I don't try to say what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. I believe in leading by example. When Professor Clark and I were attempting to figure out where do we begin with this curriculum, because my area, New York City Board of Education, I graduated. Some people call it retirement. I call it graduation. Because the 31 years, 3 months, and 15 days I spent in the Board of Education, yeah, I count the days. They pay you for the days, you know. We are not in ancient Africa. We are not eating the foods that our ancestors ate in Africa. We are not listening to the music. So there's a different type of entity that's amongst us, that's diverting our attention. So therefore, we have to find a whole new strategic way to get to our young people. So Professor John Henry Clark said to me, when I said to him, Professor Clark, how may I best utilize my time in education for our people? And he said, Booker T, there will be people who will have money. There will be people who will have buildings. There will be people who will be principals. There will be people who will have everything that we need in education. But the one thing we do not have is a curriculum. My experience as I've traveled and gone to different schools, Dr. Wade Nobles, genius brother, here on this side of the American continent, says content and intent. Content is what you teach. Intent is how you teach it. Intent, to me, is as important, if not sometimes more important, than what you're teaching. I could teach European history from an African perspective, and you'd learn a whole great deal. I could teach you African history from a European perspective, and you'd learn nothing, because of the nature of the delivery of the information. This is not just true for African children. Their children are drowning in ignorance as badly because their anchor is white supremacy. That's holding them down. White supremacy hurts them much more than it hurts us. Because one day when this thing turns around, they're going to come to realize you ain't all that they told you that you are. But they're learning that now. Every time you hear them say, it ain't supposed to happen here, well, it did. You know, that's wishful thinking. It ain't supposed to happen here, but it did. The same drive-by shootings, the same murders, sometimes even worse. It's happening there too. But see, they don't put that on the news. A lot of this stuff is happening, but nobody's reporting it. Nobody's talking about it. And that makes it worse because they are suffocating as it relates to puffing themselves up, believing that it's all right, and it's not all right, because the first step in solving a problem is to admit and recognize you have a problem. That's why I said that Dr. Khalid, I love my brother, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Yes. I love that brother. That's the good doctor. I used to call him good doctor. And there were people of European descent that had a problem with that. They didn't like what he said, but I said, he's a good doctor. You see, you go to a doctor say, hold my hand, ebony and ivory living in harmony, we shall overcome. Okay, all right, 6 months later, you're dead. You come to the doctor to say you're sick. You're real sick. In fact, you're going to die soon if you don't listen to this prescription. You're going to have to take my prescription.